Hello, this is Jaden Buckles with Waupun Pioneer News. I'm here from Mayor Bishop, or I should say the Mayor of Waupun, Ron Bishop's new office at City Hall. Mayor Bishop, would you like to tell us a little bit about your new office and why'd you move?
Yeah, I'd love to. In the very near future, probably January, we'll get to the holidays. I want to have a Saturday morning kind of open house listening session where people can come in and have some coffee on me and check out the new mayor's office. What had happened, Jaden, is we had 1.5 employees who have left City Hall. We had a full-time economic development assistant to the administrator kind of position and a half-time finance person who had both announced they were leaving. So of that 1.5 positions, we created one new job and brought in an assistant city administrator, director of finance to help with give the city residents more good flow of government, streamline things. And we're doing that, and so they wanted to put the new assistant administrator in the mayor's old office, so they moved me down the hallway, and I'm cool with it because people can pop in the door. I'm in the main hallway. It's a little bit bigger. We've redecorated. I don't know if your camera shot will get it, but we've got lots of old photos of Waupun around here, including many of the sculptures, and I like it. So people can come in when I'm here. I don't have set hours. It varies every week depending on my schedule, both with work and mayor stuff. But usually my truck's parked out on Forest Street, so you can see it and pop in whenever you want. Otherwise, like I said, we're going to have that open house kind of listening session on a Saturday morning coming up in January.
Right. So one thing I wanted to ask you about was what kinds of things would people probably be asking you about at these this open house? Like what kind of things have you accomplished over your
Well, they can
term so
ask
far?
anything. It's interesting what issues come up. So one of the hotter issues that it's not like a big news story, but it's an issue we've been dealing with. The prisons are putting in LED lights, and the LED lights are brighter than the previous lights. And I've been getting some complaints, some concerns that they're too bright at night. One guy even told me he was driving down Madison Street and his automatic headlights shut off, which is pretty impressive. That hasn't happened to me yet, but I admit the lights are brighter. So, like, people may want to ask about that. They might want to ask about the ARPA funding. I had an email this past week on kids ice skating on stormwater retention ponds. There's a lot of those kinds of issues out there, but people could ask about anything they wanted. The old pictures, the budget, what we've accomplished, what I'm working on. It's kind of a free-for-all. And I try to be as open as possible. People contact me, and sometimes I feel bad because once in a while I can lose one. Because people will email my personal account, they'll email my city account. I get Facebook Messenger, personal, and the city page, sometimes text messages. And it doesn't happen often, but once in a while it can get lost because there's so many ways to get a hold of me. But I try to be open and accessible because I do want to do the best job I can, and I do want to try to serve the residents of Waupun.
Absolutely. And one thing you mentioned was the ARPA funding, and I wanted to know when about the final decisions would be made for that.
Probably January.
Okay.
Possibly February. I have a meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, with the city administrator, Kathy. We've got some dates where I'm going to have a couple of listening sessions where people can come in and speak. We have quite a bit of time left until we have to spend that money. There's obviously 6 aldermen, and each one has a little bit of a different priority. When I first wrote about the ARPA funding back in August, I made the comment there's 11,353 city residents, and there's 11,353 different opinions on how all that money can be spent. I am trying to do the most good for the most people with it. I do want to keep some of it for cost overruns with the new senior center / community center we're building, because that's a once in a generation shot to do something like that. And I don't want to do it on the cheap because of a couple $100,000 when we have some ARPA funding and it's an eligible expense. I do want to help youth sports. Not everyone does, but I think youth sports is important to the quality of life for a city like Waupun. It gives kids something to do. It keeps kids out of trouble. It's a reason people would want to live in a city like Waupun. And all of the sports could use a little bit of help. I know, baseball's got the turf. Softball, they want to go to LED lights. I think they're looking at some turf updates, and now they're going to have an American Legion League as well. Oh. I'd like to help soccer get a permanent home. Hockey needs help with the ice and the floor and the refrigeration system. I think we can help each sport out at least a little bit. and go from there. But yeah, I guess I want to take care of the senior citizens and the young people, and then we'll work out the rest as we go along.
Absolutely. And another thing I wanted to ask about was the MSP payments and the shared revenue from the state.
Ah, yes.
I've heard that the state owes Waupun, or the city of Waupun, some money that we haven't gotten yet, and I hadn't heard any more about that.
So Waupun, so there's two separate issues you've actually asked about. Shared revenue payments to cities, which is affecting the entire state of Wisconsin. I'll deal with that second. The other question you asked was an MSP payment, which is a mutual service provider payment that's unique to cities like Waupun, because we have 3 correctional institutions here. Other places, Tachita deals with it, Oshkosh, Green Bay, other cities with prisons, but Waupun, for a city of our size, having the 3 prisons, the state of Wisconsin is supposed to give us so much money every year because we offer them fire and ambulance service to the institutions. I'm going to ballpark some of the numbers here, but roughly over the last 15 years or so, they have been paying us 37% of what they're supposed to be giving us. And when you do that over a decade and a half, that's the difference in us being able to afford the new fire truck we need and not. So if the state would have just paid what they said they would, we would be in a much healthier financial situation when it comes to the fire department. And I would like to get the new fire truck because A, we want a safe city that we can put out fires, and I don't want any of our firefighters exposed to anything unnecessary. We got to take care of them. I mean, heck, they're volunteers for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one issue. The other one you brought up was shared revenue. So what had happened was cities get shared revenue payments from the state. Waupun is almost 50% tax exempt because we have lots of churches, parks, prisons, and schools. The shared revenue payments were slashed in 2011 as they were statewide. The money that it was offset though with the cuts from the Act 10. But the state shared revenue has stayed flat. In fact, Waupun's went down $535 from last year to this year. Well, just looking at inflation, it's costing us more than that just to put gasoline in the squad cars. I am happy to report I have some friends in the legislature, and they seem to understand that cities like Waupun are getting pinched in these current times, and I do think there's a serious effort to fix the formula, and they're going to boost some of the payments to the cities. Like, I don't want to be a big tax and spend mayor, but at the same time, like, we should have 18 police officers. We can only budget for 17. We're running with 15. The fire department, they could use the new fire truck. I like to get them showers so firefighters can shower after a fire because I don't want them getting cancer. Like, cities like Waupun is where the rubber meets the road. People live in a city because they want police service, fire service, ambulance service, snow plowing, salted streets, garbage pickup. And it's not like I'm asking for more money. I'm just asking that to keep up with inflation so we're able to provide services to the residents. And one of the things you're seeing all over the state are these referendums passed for like public safety and other things in cities. Mm-hmm. So all you're doing is they're running big state surpluses, which is great, but you're shifting the tax burden from income and sales to the property tax owner because the shared revenue isn't keeping up. So it's not helping keep taxes down. So I do think if they could up shared revenue, it saves taxpayers all across the street money, and keeping money in taxpayers' pockets is a priority. And if they have more money to spend, they can spend it, and that's a good thing. So I have had some meetings with some legislators. I think Speaker Voss will be making a visit to Waupun. I've talked to his office. I plan on going down in January and February to lobby on behalf of the city. One of the things I want to use this position for is to be an advocate, a cheerleader, and a lobbyist for the city of Waupun. And I have some friendships, and I think I can do that.
That's very great to hear. So another thing I wanted to talk about was the successes you've made over the last 9 months. You've been in office since April. So what have you accomplished so far as mayor?
I think my favorite accomplishment would be like our city identity, city branding, if you will. As everyone knows, the city some years ago kind of changed the city logo to that kind of generic agricultural looking thing, which I don't hate it. I hate to pick on it, but it's not who Waupun is. There's nothing unique about it, Waupun. So the first thing I did coming into office is some of the things a mayor can do on his own. I put the city flag up in the council chambers, and now the city flag flies in front of most city-owned buildings in the city. A lot of people didn't even know we owned a city flag until we started flying it around town, and then they've been requesting them and purchasing them from City Hall. And then that led into trying to get the newer wayfinding signs to have the different Shaler sculptures on them. Each Shaler sculpture tells its own story, but together they tell the story of Mr. Shaler and his gifts to Waupun. And that was harder to do than it looks now in hindsight. So in July, I brought it to the city. Well, I should go back. In June, I brought it to the Board of Public Works, and they did not give me permission to change the signs, even though I was willing to pay for it myself. And one of the board members was Ryan Milkey, who openly expressed support for the new logo and didn't want anything to do with it. So that got me to the city council in July, where I asked permission to change the signs, and I was shot down 6-0. I didn't get anywhere, and Alderman Westfall spoke about how these signs were authorized and approved and we should put them up. So that's what they did. But what happened was that meeting was on a Tuesday. The following Wednesday night, I think your article went up, and then Thursday morning it was the front page of the Beaver Dam Daily Citizen. So by 12 noon on Thursday, my phone was blowing up, like, what's going on? So I told people what happened in the meeting. I said, all you can do is call your city council member. I'm willing to take another kick at this if you're willing to help me out. And what had happened is for the next month, people called their aldermen, and they showed up at a meeting. We had a standing room only crowd, people down the hallway, and we talked about doing the Shaler sculptures on the different signs and the costs, and I said I could use some help. A lot of hands went up, and people started sending checks. The council then, on a 4-2 vote, approved me doing the sculptures on the signage, and they just got changed over last week. And so far, the feedback's been really good, because those sculptures are who we are. What makes Waupun different than the surrounding cities? And there's a couple of things. We do have the prisons, and we have a really neat city history. But like I said, we have 7 outdoor bronze Shaler sculptures, and that's cool, and I want to celebrate our heritage.
Absolutely. And I myself, I'm speaking as myself, but I know a lot of other people feel this way too. That really does make a difference. I really love that the signs were put back up. My article was really well received when I posted
I think
it
the
last
signs
week.
look really nice too.
Yes.
I think they turned out good. And so of the different signs, they have different sculptures. We tried to match them. Like if one of the signs says Dawn of Day, that one has the Dawn of Day on it. Same with like the end of the trail and the Pioneers and stuff. Otherwise, they're kind of random, but no, they look really, really nice. So next is probably I'll keep fundraising. I like to get new Welcome to Waupun signs, and they'll have the end of the trail on those and say City of Sculpture. And already W&D Novice has talked to me about helping us out with the stone, the decorative stone for the sign. So I sense a community pride with the sculptures, and I was excited how the city rallied around that cause. And you know, one of the lessons I learned, Jaden, is to sometimes slow down, let the news catch up, and just have trust in the people of Waupun, because had they not rallied around it, it wouldn't have happened. And so it wasn't me who did it, it was the public who did it and came out in support of what I was trying to do. I couldn't have done it without the support of the people of Waupun, and I was really excited how it turned out. And speaking of sculptures, our oldest sculpture turns 100 years old in October. So we are going to have a centennial rededication celebration for the Recording Angel. And I have asked former Mayor Kyle Clark and Sue Hafmeyer from Waupun Fine Arts. They are co-chairing an ad hoc committee to put together the centennial celebration. And the last I talked to Kyle, I think this is going to be a really nice thing. Him and Sue are working really hard on it. It's going to involve the schools, and we're going to have a couple of short speeches. But I think it's a cool way to kick off the first sculpture turning 100 years old, and Waupun being the city of sculpture.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. This is a really interesting conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share as part of this end of the year mayor's address?
Not so much. I hope people stop in and see the office and check out some of the old photos. And I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Waupun's a great place to live. You know, You go back to like Halloween, we do the trick-or-treating downtown, and it's got a huge turnout. And then that rolls into the Christmas season. We put up all the angels, and we had the Christmas tree lighting, and the Christmas parade was phenomenal this year. Later today, there's Christmas music upstairs at the City Hall, and I think it's a great little city to live in, and I'm proud to be the mayor, and I love sticking up for Waupun and representing it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for taking the time to talk to me. This is always a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, come by anytime you want. We should do this once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Jaden.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor Bishop.